Oops. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Flying with Doug. An interesting night in Cincinnati for the Flyers. The first half was just kind of rough. Just didn't never really got going. And then the second half, it felt like the adjustments came too late. The pace didn't pick up until too late. And Dayton ended up dropping the game 66-59 to Cincinnati down in what is that, Heritage Bank. That place looks like an absolute dump. I would much rather just play Cincinnati at their place and have them come back to Dayton. Enough of this playing at the neutral site bullshit. I just think that's such a cop out to potential rivalry that could reform here between Cincinnati and Dayton. It's just a bullshit excuse to play this game. Let the teams play at their home and home, arenas. That's my thoughts on that part of it. Tonight, guys, low scoring affair in the first half. Cincinnati 25, Dayton 17. It was just the lack of even attempting to box out, the lack of aggressiveness in the first half, the lack of decision making in the first half was just so apparent. And it continued the entire game. I'm not really sure what AG and the coaching staff were going for tonight, but it didn't feel like Dayton was prepared for UC's physicality. It didn't feel like they were ready for their style of play. I thought it just felt like the coaching staff had a major letdown tonight. I know against UNLV, we weren't, in love with how Dayton played in the second half. But tonight, it just felt even worse. It just felt like there were no adjustments at halftime. It felt like the team never really picked it up. The offense was continuously stagnant, a lot of dribbling with no purpose, a lot of tough shots, a lot of unnecessary shots. It just felt all over the place. I felt like Wes Miller definitely out coached Anthony Grant and the staff tonight. I felt like that was one of the big issues, was the coaching staff was outdone tonight. HBC is a dump. Yeah, it's not a good venue for basketball. It's not a well put together place. There's different, you hear about them running out of beer. The concession stands are a mess. The bathrooms are. Just play a home and home at UD Arena and at where the Bearcats play. It's simple. Give both teams a chance each year. What happened to Cheeks? I'm going to talk about that. We'll get right into it right now. Enoch Cheeks played the worst game I've ever seen him play, dating back to when he played at Robert Morris. It was atrocious tonight. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't decisive in any of his plays. I don't think he played a good defensive game. He had the three in the corner, ended up with 5 points, 6 rebounds, 3 turnovers, 5 fouls. I don't know what's happened to him. He missed that alley-oop that would have been a dunk early in the season. I don't know what's happened to Enoch Cheeks the past couple games, but he's reverted back to the non-aggressive guy that we saw last season. UNLV had 4 points. Tonight he had 5 points. Against Marquette, yeah, I thought he had a good game, 14 points. But these last 2 games, they're Enoch Cheeks reverting back to what he was last year. That was a non-aggressive basketball player in situations where this team definitely needs Enoch Cheeks to be good. Dayton's not going to be able to win the A-10 unless Enoch Cheeks is a 15-point-per-game scorer, a guy who you can rely on both ends to do a little bit of everything. It's just not going to happen. And tonight, I don't know if the physicality bothered him. I don't know what happened, but he definitely shrunk in a lot of key situations, I thought, for the Flyers. Next guy we're going to talk about, look, it's a Jekyll and Hyde type thing. Javon Bennett tonight, his size was extremely detrimental. It's just that is what it is. 5'10", playing against a team with UC size and with their ability, it's going to be difficult. I thought Javon Bennett, every time he drove to the basket, it looked like he was getting swarmed. It looked like he was driving into a bunch of trees. There was no chance for his shots to fall tonight. And I think he ended up taking 2 threes. The rest were all driving attempts, 1 of 6, 4 points. It just wasn't working tonight. Javon Bennett is a gritty, a bulldog type player. He's a guy who, when he gets hot, is extremely dangerous. But, length and athleticism are an easy counter to his size right now. And that's, it's very difficult for him. And that's why Pasha Alexander played a majority of that second half and ended up playing 25 minutes because of Bosch's the experience of playing in the Big East. He has that body type. He has that physicality that can match up with some of these bigger guards, even though he's not as tall himself. Overall, look at the shooting numbers. Both teams struggled from the field. It felt like UC didn't struggle as much, but if you look at the numbers, it was very close. Dayton, 39% from the field. UC, 36% from the field. They both shot 27% from the three-point line. But the big difference was the three-point line is so much more important to Dayton. Dayton needs the three-point line so much more than a team like UC does. When Dayton's not hitting shots, the offense looks just so pitiful. And that's just the fact. When you can't create off the dribble until like the last 5, 6, 7 minutes of the game, when your threes aren't falling, it is hard to watch. And tonight, like I told you when we started, a lot of dribbling without a purpose, a lot of over dribbling, pass around, dribble. Okay, pick and roll shot clock's at 6. We got to shoot a terrible shot. And that happened multiple times, mainly in the first half, but a little bit bleeding into the second half. Offensive rebounding, I bitched about this all game. I'm going to try to keep the F-bombs just for, X, but the entire game, the boxing out on defense was non-existent. There was not anybody putting a body on the backside rebounder for UC at all. I think Skillings ended up with 5 offensive rebounds. I think the other kid had 4 or 5 in his own right. As a team, UC had 17 offensive rebounds. It just what was the preparation for a team like UC? When you watch a team like UC, they are physical. They are athletic. They are going to attack the glass. What was the game plan coming into this? These guys coming into this game are going to absolutely attack you. I think UC averages, between 37 and 38 rebounds a game. What makes you think that they're not going to absolutely crash the glass and beat you up on the glass, especially when you're not willing to put a body on them? That was my biggest issue tonight. My biggest issue tonight was the lack of physicality from Dayton until very late in the game when they made their run. Very late in the game, they finally started to make a run because I felt like the physicality finally met UC's level, and that's when the skill for skill, Dayton evened out a little bit. It just took too long to happen. 17 turnovers, guys. 17 turnovers. UC had 15 points off turnovers. That's 17 turnovers is completely unacceptable. You play 3 guard sets for a reason, and when your 3 guards set is struggling to maintain the ball, struggling to dribble, struggling to get into the offense, Malachi Smith ended up with 13 points tonight. He led the team in scoring. He shot 12 times tonight. He ended up with 6 turnovers. I personally thought up until he hit that 3 to make it a 4-point game, I thought this was one of his worst games. I thought he was really, really bad tonight. And I thought the way he was running the offense was a little bit detrimental to everybody else and their flow in the offense. I legitimately believe that tonight it was too much hero ball from Malachi Smith when it didn't really need to be that way. So in my opinion, not a great game for Malachi Smith, not a great game from Enoch Cheeks. When those two guys don't play well, you can see the results. Dayton struggled mightily. Santos ends up 5 of 12. He misses the up and under layup to put it to cut the lead from 4 to 2. That was kind of a heartbreaker because that really would have gave Dayton a legitimate shot. And I'm going to talk about this, and I think everybody kind of feels similar to how I feel when it comes to the zone. That 1-3-1 zone, man, is just atrocious. It is just atrocious. It's already hard to rebound against a team like UC, but when you mix up your defense and you put guys in different positions, that it makes it even harder to box out. Things like the end of the first half happen where UC gets an open 3 in the corner. They miss it. They get the offensive rebound, put it back up. UC's up 8 going into the half instead of 6. That's a big momentum swing right there. And then in the second half, you come out and you go back in the zone and you stick in the zone way too long, way too long. UC goes on an 8-0 run, and that right there is the difference in the game pretty much. 8-0 run. Why Anthony Grant and the staff thought that the zone was working, thought that it was even effective. I know you want to give teams different looks, but after UC had made it very clear that the zone did not bother them in the slightest, you can't keep going back to that. It was detrimental to the team and detrimental to the defense. The defense was already struggling. Man-to-man, I thought they had really improved going into that last possession of the first half. And all that momentum goes away because of a bad coaching decision where you think you're going to outsmart UC and go to zone. It didn't work. It didn't work in the second half, and they stuck with it too long. I thought AG coached a poor game tonight, and I think the staff coached a poor game tonight. Wes Miller and his staff deserve some credit because I thought they had their guys ready to go, and they were ready for whatever Dayton was going to bring at them in the terms of physicality. 8 assists tonight. Dayton only had 8 assists. 17 turnovers to only 8 assists. You can't win against a team as good as UC by even doing that. And Dayton only lost by 7. Like, if Dayton shows up in the first half at all and plays a reasonable first half, this is a game that Dayton could win. Now, we're not going to overdo it. It was a bad night. Malachi Smith, I thought, had a rough night. Yeah, he finished with the 13, like I said. Enoch Cheeks had one of his worst games tonight. Javon Bennett had one of his worst shooting games tonight. And they still only lost by 7. So if you can clean up 17 turnovers, if you can figure out a way to box out, please put a body on somebody. You cannot play basketball at this level and refuse to box out the way Dayton did tonight. It was a refusal to box out. It was, I'm going to jump with this guy, and hopefully I get the rebound. And UC, person to person, are probably better athletes than Dayton at each position. Maybe not overall, but you can't out-jump players that already have a size advantage on you, and it just didn't work tonight. It was really, really hard to watch in that terms because you could just see the weak side crash from UC repeatedly. Weak side crash. And it cost Dayton. It cost Dayton tremendously. So, it's tough. Again, is this the end of the world? No. It's a tough loss against a good team. UC is a good team. They're going to, I would say, finish, middle of the pack in a very loaded Big 12. They're a good team. I just felt like that's a team that Dayton could beat if, Dayton plays their B game. I felt like, and Cincinnati needs to deserve some credit. They do play good defense. They are physical, but I just felt like Dayton never arrived in the game tonight. So we've got a couple days off here. It's the 20th. Dayton does not play again until the 31st. They've got LaSalle at home to open the A-10 schedule. Look, the non-conference is over now. Dayton's 3 losses, 2-point loss to North Carolina, who's number 12. 5-point loss to Iowa State, who's number 5. A 7-point loss to number 19 Cincinnati, who's probably going to move up a little bit in the standings. That's 3 really high-profile losses. They're solid resume losses. The problem, though, is the A-10 as a whole, there's so many landmines. Besides VCU, besides maybe Loyola, you can't lose any of these games. And, Dayton can maybe afford 2 losses in A-10 play. It's got to be lights out in A-10 play. And that's what kind of worries me. I thought if they could secure that UC win tonight, maybe they could afford a clunker in the A-10. But now, after this result, you've got to be ready every single night in the A-10. Dayton should be able to beat everybody in the A-10 pretty much. Like I said, maybe 2 losses. I think 2 losses is a fair amount. It's just, when you lose games like this, when you don't show up, that's what upsets me more is it didn't feel like Dayton showed up. And when you don't show up, it's just frustrating because I feel like Dayton has proven that they are a legitimately top 15 team in the country, and tonight was the exact opposite of that. I felt that a little bit against UNLV, excuse me, where Dayton was able to overcome and still win that game, but tonight they weren't able to overcome poor play, and it shows. So Dayton obviously loses tonight, 66-59. Tough loss, 10-3 going into the conference games. Like I said, 2 losses feels like the max for Dayton this year. Let's bounce back. We got a week and a half off. It's going to be fun, guys. It's going to be a fun conference schedule. To me, this is the season. If Dayton doesn't win the A10 championship this year, it might not happen, guys. I'm just trying to be realistic. And, people, say, oh, you're over dramatic out. Yes. Yeah, a little bit. I live and die with this shit. But, if Dayton's not able to win the A10 this year, it's just poorly reflects on the program in just a huge way. Making the tournament's great, but at some point winning the A10 does matter. And Dayton hasn't done that in what is it, 20 years, 21 years now? It's been a long damn time, guys. So I feel like that's all in front of Dayton this year. There's a lot in front of them still. It's a tough way to close out the non-conference. UC, again, very good team. Guys, this has been Flying with Doug. I appreciate you guys, 172 live viewers. Thank you guys for tuning in after a tough loss. As always, I appreciate you guys. Check out the audio version on Apple and Spotify, and we will see you guys next time.